Hey, small business people and lovers of good stories in general. Welcome to episode 38 of Small Business War Stories. Today is a really, really cool one. I sat down with Sal Sanchez in Lexington, Kentucky, and he is the founder of A Cup of Commonwealth. It's Commonwealth, two different words. And it's a really cool community coffee shop that exists in Lexington, Kentucky that has really harness a lot of cool dynamics about what it means to be a part of a community. They have a pay it forward board where people buy drinks for people in exchange for, it could be anything really. Like he gives the example of somebody having to act like a chicken for 10 minutes and then they get a free cup of coffee. And somebody did that. So we tell all kinds of interesting stories, including how the day that they got broken into turned out to be one of the best things that ever happened to them, but I will not steal Sal's thunder for that. The episode today is a part of the Soul of America tour, and it is brought to you by Tecovas Boots. Tecovas Boots are handcrafted, top-notch boots. I wore them every single day of the Soul of America tour, but they're much, much less expensive than if you go and buy boots from a retailer because they sell directly to you. There are no middlemen, no retail markups. You can go check out tecovasboots.com. That's TECOVAS boots.com. I happen to have the Ropers and Bourbon. They're awesome. Get lots of compliments, so check them out. The tour is also brought to you by Impact Crates. Impact Crates are doggy crates. They're made in the USA. They're strong, safe, and secure. And my puppy, Muddy Waggers, traveled in one every single day during the Soul of America tour. They have crates for every single size of dogs and anything from a Chihuahua to a Great Dane. My pup is about 50 pounds or so. But when you go get your Impact Crate, make sure you use code MUDDY20, MUDDY20 to get 20% off. It's a great deal, your Impact Crate. And the episode is also brought to you by Badger Mapping. And Badger is an app that allows you to map the different things that you have to do during your route. So it's a route planning software that a lot of salespeople find very useful when they have to visit different accounts. So I used it to map the different podcast episodes I was taping all over the country during the Soul of America tour. And you should check it out if you have any sort of need to map a route. And because they are a partner of ours, you can go to them to Badger Mapping, and they'll give you 2 free months if you mention that you heard of Badger in the Small Business War Stories podcast. Now, like every episode of Small Business War Stories, this one is brought to you by Proven. Proven.com. Proven is a company that I started with my business partner, Sean, and we are a leading small business hiring tool. We know hiring's a pain in the ass. We know that you want to get back to doing the things that you love in your business. So we make small business hiring easy. We take the pain away. You can distribute your job to over 100 job boards. You don't have to go around posting to all of them. And thousands of small businesses use Proven. And there is a free trial. So we would love for you to try it out. Again, it's proven.com. Without further ado, I do want to get into the episode number 38 with Sal Sanchez in Lexington, Kentucky. Small Business War Stories. Small businesses are the soul of America. And this is where they tell their stories. I am your host, Pablo Fuentes. And we are live here in Lexington, Kentucky, and I'm really excited to be sitting here across from Sal Sanchez, founder of A Cup of Commonwealth. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Excited.
Yeah, awesome. So yeah, we've been talking here about, it's my first day in beautiful Lexington, Kentucky.
It was a good day, really good day to be here.
Yeah, was it raining before?
Yeah, it's been wet.
It's been raining everywhere I go.
Yeah.
I don't know.
When you're traveling everywhere.
Yeah, I know. I keep chasing the storm, right? Or the storm keeps chasing me. Very cool. So yeah, we got introduced by a mutual friend of ours, and I'm really excited to learn more about what you're doing here in Lexington with your coffee shop to help bring people together. So can you tell me a little bit more maybe about A Cup of Commonwealth and what do you guys do?
Yeah. So we opened up maybe 3.5 years ago,
Okay.
4 in July, And we just really kind of gotten behind our mission, which is embrace community, serve others, create culture. So everything we do is based off of that mission, and it's really allowed us to get entrenched in the community. So we figured out ways to do like nonprofit days, or we have a pay it forward board where customers can buy drinks for other customers, and so there's just walls covered with these free drinks.
Wow.
There's
so hold on, people, tell me more about how does that work? People buy it for just anybody?
Yeah. We started off and it was going to be something really small where we figured it'll be a little board and people will buy drinks for maybe somebody walking by or a friend. And Lexington just got really behind it, so it turned into this like small piece of paper to a giant butcher paper to now 2 walls in the coffee shop just full of these sleeves. And they can be something as simple as the next person that walks in, or it can be as like intricate as do 25 jumping jacks in the middle of the coffee shop. So there's just a lot of crazy things that happen in the shop.
Wow.
all the time.
What is the craziest one you've ever seen?
We had somebody act like a chicken for 10 minutes, and it doesn't sound that crazy, but when you really think about how long 10 minutes goes.
That is a long time to act like a chicken.
Yeah, it was strange. He was jumping up on tables and like pecking people, and yeah, it was very weird.
That is amazing. Any others? Anything else that jumps to mind?
We had a dance teacher. She came in and she did the whole Beat It dance in the middle of the coffee shop to Michael Jackson. That was pretty awesome.
Wow.
You're just realizing how talented people are, and you're like, man, that's really impressive, and I am not that talented.
Wow. It makes you want to go down there and leave something crazy. Like, sing a song in Spanish.
Exactly. Yeah, it's fun. It's really fun.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I saw you guys have a cool typewriter too, and there's like a really good vibe. So what are the kind of things that people do in the shop?
Yeah, we've kind of come to the point where we just realize the community kind of decides what happens to the coffee shop. So people will bring in typewriters. A lot of our furniture that's there, customers have just brought it in. So I'd say almost all the tables are from customers that came by. Almost all the chairs are from customers that came by.
Wow.
The walls are painted by customers. Both of our bars have been made by customers. We had an old condiment bar that was made by a customer, then another one that was made by a customer, and then another one. So we have 3 renditions of it now.
That's amazing.
So it's really nice when you walk in there. You talk to any customer, just about anyone, and they can point out the different things that they've contributed to the shop. So it's made it feel very community oriented, and we've just realized we don't really control it. Like the people that walk in those doors control it. So.
Wow. What was the inspiration? I mean, if you decide to start a coffee shop, there's probably many different angles you can take, right? Mm-hmm. You can go, something really kind of more corporate and clean, or something more, community oriented. How do you decide that this is the kind of thing that you want to do?
Growing up, I really like coffee, and I started working in coffee shops. I was actually chasing a girl, and that didn't work out, but I joined this company. I loved coffee, and I just kept sticking with coffee. So I worked for 2 other companies, and I kept noticing that the coffee shops I really admired across the country are the ones that were entrenched in their communities. They're really good about customer service. They found a way to kind of create their own culture. Yeah. So that made the 3 pillars come together. Community, service, and culture. That's what we're going to be about. That's what makes a successful coffee shop. And then we kind of just backed out of the way. We realized that you don't have any real control over. If you really just embrace community and let community decide what they want, some really cool, fun things happen.
I bet.
And for the shop there, we're in this weird spot where universes are colliding. You have downtown, you have Kennewick and Belcourt neighborhoods, you have East End, so you have maybe...
What are those neighborhoods like?
So we have some really higher end neighborhoods and then some really low end neighborhoods, and then you have downtown where it like kind of is in the middle, so it's been fun to watch all the collisions. So we have kids coming down there, they've learned how to read by going down the pay it forward board and just reading off the pay it forward board, or learning how to tie their shoes, or you have people that are coming in there and they just want a break from their everyday life. So it's been fun to just see what happens in those 4 walls. So
that's amazing.
Yeah, and it started out as a little spot, and we've doubled in size. Now we blew out a wall, and so we stretched all the way to Main Street.
It's always been in the same location?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, the only difference is it used to be 800 square feet, and now I think it's maybe 1,800, 2,000 square feet. So
it's bigger than 800.
Yeah.
What were some of the coffee, you mentioned some coffee shops nationwide inspired you. What are some that jump to mind that really have that powerful vibe that inspire you to do that?
Yeah, Water Street Coffee Joint is one that I worked in Kalamazoo, Michigan.
I just went through there.
Yeah, I love them. Yeah. They're one of my favorite coffee companies. They're so good about just being community oriented and treating people right. Cuvée Coffee in Austin is one that I really, really admire and respect.
Where is that? I'm gonna have to check it out.
So they have a new one on the East End.
Okay.
I knew them when they were still a roaster out near Bee Cave.
Okay.
But they just opened one in East End that's kind of like Chipotle style, which is really cool, and I love that model.
Interesting. What does that mean? How do you do Chipotle style coffee?
So you kind of, instead of ordering like normally at a coffee shop, you pick your milk, you pick your syrups, you kind of go down the line. So and Mike, the owner, is a big Chipotle fan, so it's kind of worked out that way. So it's pretty cool.
Okay.
I think when I worked for Whole Foods, we had Allegro Coffee Company, and really learning about Allegro and the people involved in it was really cool, and seeing some of the coffee farms and just kind of getting a better feel for that. And then just like random pockets. There's one I think called Midnight Oil in Searcy, Arkansas. It was like in an old house that was really, really cool to see. There's Houndstooth in some of the Texas areas, like Austin, and I think they opened up one in Houston or Dallas.
Okay.
Once Over in Austin is one that I actually was finalizing the business plan for the coffee shop in right at the very end before I moved to Lexington. So I always have a special place for that coffee shop.
Okay.
Those are the ones I think come to mind.
Why did you want to start it here?
So I was looking at different cities, and Lexington.
Are you from here or not?
No, I'm from Michigan. So I originally thought I was going to open in like Southwest Michigan or Chicago, and then I had a really good buddy that was stationed in Fort Knox. So we had to come through Kentucky. We looked at Louisville, we looked at Lexington, we looked at Frankfurt, and at the time, that was back in 2006. Lexington wasn't what it is. It was a lot different, and I ended up going to a different company and worked there for 5 or 6 years. I was in Texas for a long time, and then as I was working at Hastings and Whole Foods, I started visiting a lot of different cities and started watching Lexington bubble and grow. And then I just finally one day sat down and wrote down all the things that were important to me to start a business. And strangely enough, Lexington, Chattanooga, and Detroit were the 3 cities that topped almost all of my lists.
Wow, I've never been in Chattanooga. I just came from Detroit.
Yeah.
What did you like about those cities and about Lexington?
Yeah, so the thing that stuck out with all of them, they were really friendly to small business. They were all kind of starting out. They really weren't into the coffee scene yet. They were still kind of slow behind that movement.
Yeah.
They were all closer to my family. When I moved to Texas, I was really far from all of my brothers and sisters and parents in Michigan.
Sure.
So I was trying to get closer to them. And what's special about Lexington is that it was a college town, which is really helpful. There's a nice rural and urban combination. They're super friendly to small business, and that was the same thing for Chattanooga and Detroit. Detroit, I think, was going through a renaissance. It still is.
Well, Detroit. I mean, the people of Detroit, man. So that's fighting spirit, right there. Like, it's. I mean, we're gonna do an entire episode, and we did do an entire episode a couple episodes ago about that. But.
It's a powerful place, and Chattanooga, I still haven't been to. It's strange that it popped up on my list. Like, it was all the things I was researching. It kept popping up, and I haven't been there yet. So Lexington kind of made sense.
Okay. Very cool. Did you, without naming names, see any coffee shops where you're like, ooh, I don't want to be like that?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think one thing I learned from an old mentor, he always told me, because when I was working at Hastings, I would go into a place and I'd come back and I'd say, oh, I saw this, we're doing this, and this better.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, you should see that. He's like, but don't think about it too much. Now think about all the things that they're doing better. So a lot of the places that I went to that I didn't like, after I realized I didn't like it, I would start finding little spots in there that I was like, that's really cool though, or that's really cool, and just take that.
What were the things that you didn't like that you wanted to avoid?
Sometimes service, I didn't really, it was something that's really started bothering me over the years as I get older, how important service is. So when I'd go into coffee shops, that some of them were just beautiful. Design was great, the coffee was amazing, and they would give you really bad service. And so that really bothered me. Sometimes just weird designs would bother me if it didn't match. I'm not a huge fan of like when somebody takes a new space and then they make it look old. Just the authenticity bothers me. So it's just like random things that I would notice that, you don't realize some of your idiosyncracies until
you start designing your own place.
Yeah.
Very cool. Okay. Do you guys roast your own coffee, or how did you source your stuff?
Yeah, we just started. So when I worked at Water Street, we just built a relationship with the owner and the management team. So when we started here, that was our major roaster. And then we had 2 local roasters start supplying us coffee too, and we would rotate out, and we became like a multi-roaster. We had a lot of different ones there. And then I went to Denver for a bit, and the owner of Magic Beans reached out to me and said, hey, we're looking to sell and get out of here, and we want to make sure the brand's taken care of, so I want to see if you'd be interested in it. And it was something we were planning on doing, but like 5 years down the road, it was just an opportunity. We're like, yeah, let's buy it and see what happens. So we acquired Magic Beans Coffee Roasters a little bit over a year ago, and now we're roasting our own coffee. We still get from Water Street just because it's a good relationship, and we very much believe in like keeping your relationship strong. We have still other multi-roasters, but it's just been fun to, you know, roast your own coffee, practice, play around, learn.
That sounds like an entire art in itself.
Yeah, right? It's crazy. And Joe, who's our roast master, I mean, he's amazing, great palate, can pick up anything in coffee, loves the idea behind it, loves the science, one of the smartest people you'll ever meet.
Okay.
And it's great because he has that skill set and I don't. So
yeah, that's always good to find people like that to partner with.
Yep, exactly.
Cool. So do you distribute and sell your coffee to other people, or is it just mostly sold through your shop?
Mostly through the shop right now. We have a few here in coffee shops in Lexington. 21C, the hotel, we supply their coffee, and there's just a few like key spots that we do. We haven't ever tried to get like too big, but just enough where, you know, we're here locally, we're here regionally, and I don't know if we're ever going to be. We're going to try to get really, really big.
Okay. Yeah. Let's talk about creating culture. So a lot of the stuff that you talked about, you know, enabling the community to create and do those things, there has to be a certain environment that makes that easy, right? And a big part of that is the people in there. How do you, when you're looking to hire somebody, what's your process to hire and find that person and make sure that they're a good fit with what you're trying to do?
Yeah, so we have a really crazy interview and hiring process. And I think people definitely kind of make fun of us because it's so elaborate.
Do tell.
So we probably start off with 100 applicants at any given time. We don't have applications. We tell them to apply or send us a resume, tell us why they're fun and why they want to work with us, just through an email. And then we take all of those applicants and start taking them through the process. So there's a giant group interview that can be anywhere from 20 applicants to 100 applicants, kind of depending on how many people we have at the time. When we interview them, we're looking at that point, you know, their personality. Are they genuine? Do they really want to be here? If they get through that, there's usually
hold on, before we continue from that, how do you interview 100 people at the same time? You like sing We Are the World? Or?
Yeah. So we get a giant circle, and if it's too many, we might do like 2 or 3 group interviews at once. And then we just start kind of asking questions as we go along. There's usually 2 people that are doing the interview, one that's asking the questions and one's kind of an observer and just kind of paying attention to all the candidates that are there. Once we get through the group interview, there's usually maybe 5 that make it out of that, and they go into the panel interviews. And the panel interviews, they get interviewed by 3 or 4 of us from the staff. And then if they get through that, they do a shop interview where it's kind of like on the job. They're standing next to the register and greeting customers, and we're just seeing how they interact with people. And then we usually end up with 1 or 2 people, so from like 100 to 1 or 2. But they have to get through all 3 interviews. The catch is, no, they can't have a single no. They have to be interviewed by at least 5 of us, and any no ends that interview process. So I have no trump card. I can't say like, I really like this person, they're going to get hired. If a barista, the newest barista, said no to that person, they don't move on.
That is hardcore.
So it's really interesting because there's some accountability that's built up where the baristas know that, hey, if this person's going to work with me, I okayed it. So they're much tougher in a lot of ways. And by the time we get through it, we figure, you know, if we all have said yes to this person, then the person's probably going to fit our culture.
Wow. So it's basically easier to get security clearance with the CIA than to get hired at a couple of Commonwealth. Wild. Has the process ever backfired?
It hasn't yet, but I do think sometimes we maybe have missed out on some good people where we're like, yeah, you know, that person was great, but they just, you know, they got 4 out of 5 yeses or 6 out of 7 yeses.
Do you think there's a potential trap there where you could be hiring for lack of weakness instead of hiring for strength?
You know, there's that potential. And what I like to believe is that we are searching for like the person that fits the culture at the right time for us. I think there's always a right time and a right place. And so sometimes we've had plenty of people that have applied and we really liked them, and then they applied again and they've come through the 2nd or 3rd time and end up getting hired. So hopefully we've built in enough checks and balances where we kind of prevent that. But I'm sure there's times where we've probably made a mistake. But I've been happy with the staff. I think the culture is really strong. And once they come in, we have about a 75 to 90 hour training program. So they go through all of that, and by the end they usually feel good. And so we don't have a lot of turnover. People stay. In the end, they put in so much time. Like, you know, I've interviewed forever. I've trained forever. I'm going to be here for a while.
Well, how many people do you currently have employed?
25.
25. Yep. Okay. And how many do you hire per year?
Probably 1 or 2.
Wow.
So the first time we've ever hired a bunch was when we opened Chocolate Holler, which is our 2nd shop now. Okay. We hired 10 people in the last month, and that's the first time. I mean, we probably the last time we've hired 10 people was over the course of maybe 3 years.
So did you follow the same process for all? Jesus Christ, how long did that take?
It took a long time. It took us about a month and a half to go through.
That's pretty much all you did.
Yep.
And no sleep.
Yeah, so like the management team, we always know we're about to like start interviewing. It's going to be a lot of work.
Yeah.
And it's one of the few things that we don't have it planned out like we normally do. It's like, okay, we got to get a group interview, and then we want to respect their time, so we want to move into a panel interview quickly and then shop interview. So they're busy days, but I feel like it's really important they're the front line. I mean, they're the most important position in the company, so we want to spend a lot of time in hiring the right people.
Yeah. Did you spend any time in the front line?
Behind the counter? Yeah, when the shop opened there, and my business partner at the time, we were there from open to close, so it was 16, 17-hour days.
Yeah.
When Chocolate Holler opened, same thing. And it helps me just be in there and kind of get
it helps when you've done every job in the company too, because then you can talk to people about I know what it's like. So I hear you, man. Can you think of a time when you had to make a tough choice because of culture, where like maybe something was difficult but you knew deep down it was the right thing?
Well, let me think of a really good example here. But it happens all the time, and so I just want to make sure I come up with something that's hearty. Well, recently we were thinking about expanding and looking at a potential acquisition or other business, and I was really excited about it because it was going to inject a lot of money into the company. It would make it much easier in that regard. But we looked at the mission, and we were like, okay, our mission is embrace community, serve others, create culture. All of our decisions have to be made off of that. And we came to the conclusion that that's not really fitting in to what we're trying to do. So
somebody was going to buy you.
We were going to buy.
You were going to buy something
adding
else.
To that.
Okay.
It was already existing though, so it'd be a lot of revenue kind of coming in right away.
Yeah, got it.
And then we ended up switching to Chocolate Holler, and we decided that actually fits our mission better. It's something that we're organically growing. It's something that we can get behind the community. But then it opened, and it didn't inject the same amount of revenue, but it was the right choice. It just sucked at the time, and I was really sad at the time. But I got really happy. I mean, it was a lot of work. We started working 16, 17-hour days again, and it became really exhausting. And there was times where I was like, maybe we made the wrong decision. But now looking back on it, it ended up being the right decision. So,
yeah. Interesting. So let's talk about that a little bit, because I think a lot of small, and I certainly have struggled with this. Like a lot of small business folks struggle sometimes with those sleepless nights when maybe things are not going the way you planned them. How do you manage your own psychology in those moments and kind of stick with the course?
It's taken forever to figure this out, and I think I'm just starting to. I always try to balance professional and personal life, and now I realize there's no point. I'm just going to kind of blend them all together. So if I feel like I need to go for a run or I need to go read, I'm going to go do that, and then I'll come back to work. And that's helped a lot, where I don't feel like I'm not thinking in terms of all these crazy hours that are going into it. And then I've found time to carve out that I just need to be by myself. So I know that I get up really early. I'm a really, really early riser, but I need 2 hours to myself without people around or anything. And it's times with my dogs, and it usually turns into 4 hours. So by the time I actually run into people, I'm pretty far into my day. And then few really close friends I like to just have a bourbon with and have a coffee with, talk, and just kind of, some people even away from the coffee shop because they see it objectively, and so that helps, and just hearing their input is really nice. And then just touching base with my family. My parents, even though they're not really into specialty coffee, they're still my parents, and so they still can just be like, hey, this is stupid. this is how you should be thinking.
What's an example of something that you did or said that they this is stupid?
There's times where I'll just, I'm thinking of plans for the future of the coffee shop, and say we gotta do this and this, or this is what I'm thinking of the staff right now. This is how we can develop them, and my plan is to do this with this person, this with this person. My parents be like, they're kids. You have to give them, extend grace sometimes. Be nice. You don't have to push people hard all the time. And I have this thing where I want to develop everybody I talk to and work with everybody. And sometimes my mom is like, you got to realize there's times I wanted to smack you so hard. She goes, but you can't always do that. You just have to, walk. Not that I smack my employees, but you have to give them that opportunity to fail and mess up. And and it's cool to see that you don't have to be in industry to give people advice. I think that's what I love about my parents, is that they're not afraid to tell me when they think I'm right or wrong. And they don't hold back. They're like, this isn't smart, or you're working too hard, or or come home and visit your grandma, or that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's good to have a support system of people that can help you triangulate your truths, right?
Yeah.
Cool. Can you tell me about a time, how long have you guys been in business for?
Almost 4 years.
4 years.
Yep.
I'm sure in 4 years you've had some really difficult times. I mean, you mentioned opening the other location, but maybe early on, can you think of something where things really, really went sideways and were not going well, and how did you deal with that?
Yeah, at the beginning, we were still like trying to get going and build up revenue, and we were working all the time. And I remember it was probably 4 months into it, we finally decided, hey, let's just take a step back. We've got employees, let's take a break. And we did that, and labor started shooting up, and it was tight. So we're like, man, we got to get back in there. Hopefully we can like keep this going. And then the weirdest thing happened where we got broken into one night. And I think they stole like $300. The window was more expensive than the money that they took. But the next day, customers and people from the city just started flooding. You know, they came in, they brought food, they brought money. They brought, this one kid didn't have any money, so we brought a piggy bank just so people could put money in to raise for the window. And it was almost like a really happy like funeral in a sense, where people just came in and they dropped off food at the tables, and we were still a really small space, so it was crowded all day long, and people were there like helping pick up the glass. The first few customers, my business partner and I were there all night, like just kind of waiting for the first customer to come in. And the baristas came in and they were so upset. They're like, oh, this is gonna suck. We're like, you know what, this is what we're going to do. So we both were like, we're going to run home and take showers and come back. So you guys give us like 30 minutes, we'll be back. And on my way back, I had called, and the barista at the time, she's like, you will not believe what's happening. And I was like, well, yeah, what's going on? And she goes, because I told her before I left, we don't have any money, so people buy stuff. You just don't take their money because we can't give them change. So she had told the first customer, and he was like, well, I'm not taking any money. Like, she's like, I can't take your money. I can't take your money. He's like, well, all I have is a 20. And she's like, well, I can't. He's like, keep it. Like, this is a way to get you guys back. And the second customer did it. And the third customer did it. And the next customer didn't have, he had his card, so he bought to pay it forward, and he put a drink up. And it was just like, I mean, even to this day, I still get kind of emotional thinking about like how it just started spiraling in that day. Like, it turned to be one of our biggest days, and all of a sudden we had like news reporters in there all the time and asking questions. The Pay It Forward for the first time had this huge limelight on it. People were like, this is really cool, we didn't know this existed. And then it just turned around. Like, we started shooting up. I mean, I think from that point on, we probably were up like 30 or 50% every week, and then we've kind of taken off since then.
But I'm sure it looked dark before that moment.
Oh yeah. It's funny like what a break-in can do. Like, it just changed. Like, it's something so bad turned into probably like one of our better days. So we've turned into a holiday too. So every December 9th, it's our break-in day, and so we just we do free drinks for the community just because like they support us that day. So,
that's amazing.
Yeah,
that's amazing. Yeah. Wow, I would not have expected that. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very
what would you say is your number one lesson or piece of advice that you would give small business owners or people who are thinking about starting a small business?
This is so simple, but I'd say just be good. I used to always want to come up with something really cool to say, or something like, this is the one thing that's going to make you successful. But for me, I realized if you're good to people and you're genuine and you're honest and you want what's best for other people, everything kind of just works out. Everybody treats you well. I mean, when we do free drink days too, like that break-in day, people are like, I don't want to take a free drink. Like, no, please do. And like, people just take care of each other. There's something, and I might be biased, but there's something really special in those four walls, and it's something that every time I walk in that shop, and even Chocolate Holler doesn't have that yet, where you walk in a cup and you're almost in a different universe. It's just everybody's kind to one another, everybody's looking out for one another. Cool. It's something really, really special.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So related to that, where do you want to see this going in the next 10 years? How do you want to see this grow, and how do you if you're going to do more, take that kernel in, I don't know, is it like lightning in a bottle, or is it something that you can, do again? Yeah.
I actually wonder that all the time. We talked about this past week too. Was it like lightning in a bottle, or, just a flash in the pan? We talk about how we do want to grow it. And one thing that we've mentioned is that we want to stick to that mission. Okay. So maybe that's 2 stores, maybe that's 5 stores, maybe that's 10, maybe it's 15. We're not sure. But what we do know is once we feel like we've can't fulfill that mission anymore. We stopped growing.
Would you do it here in Lexington or elsewhere?
Yeah, no, we've definitely talked about Lexington. It's so big. There's a lot of spots.
How many people live here?
300,000.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's still there's still a market for it.
Yeah.
But there's other. We love. I love Michigan. I would love to get something up there at some point.
Yeah.
I love Tennessee. Kentucky has some great spots that people still don't know about.
Yeah. You gotta tell me about those.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I think Chocolate Holler, and from a business perspective, is a little bit more duplicatable than Cup. But there's something special about Cup that if you can duplicate it, it's really cool to be able to provide that.
Why did you decide to start a chocolate business as your second location instead of another Cup?
We are really trying to avoid ever being too cookie cutter. So we want things to be different. Chocolate's really similar to coffee in a lot of ways.
Okay.
I learned more about 5 years ago, and it made me really interested. And then I've seen French Broad in Asheville, and then the Ghirardellis and Godivas that pop up in big cities.
Sure.
It's a cool little business that I don't think people have really tapped into. And people love chocolate.
Yeah,
and
I eat a lot of chocolate. 88%, the dark stuff.
Yeah. So it's why not be able to provide something like that? And if we can tie in our culture of community, and it's a really, really cool idea.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where Chocolate Holler came from. And
cool.
It's been fun to kind of see how it's even impacted different customers. They're literally across one major street here in Lexington from each other. You could throw a rock to one of the locations, but they're two totally different customer bases. One's very much coffee and community driven. One's very much chocolate, college student.
Do people know that they're the same company?
Slowly they're learning. We thought we made a big deal about it, but we find out all the time that people really don't realize it's the same company. So we'll tell them, they're like, oh, so the funny thing is we originally opened Holler that close because we wanted to cannibalize some of the sales from Cup in the morning. We were like, well, they'll make our mornings a little bit easier. We'll have the second location. We'll build this up. And what ended up happening was the new customers we got from Chocolate Holler heard about Cup for the first time, and suddenly the sales at Cup shot up. And so now we have the complete opposite effect, which is...
Wow. Well, that's a high quality product.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. You talked about Lexington a little bit. I'd love to hear more about what it's like to do business here. What's your relationship with the government? What's your relationship with other small business owners?
Yeah, it's really cool. There's something about Lexington that people want to celebrate everything, and they want to work together. When we opened the shop, small business owner after small business owner started coming to the shop and supporting us. And there's very much this sense of, we'll extend our hand. If you grab it, we're going to help you along the way. So even in the building that we're in now, the Planter eats the bread box. So there's a brewery here, there's artist studios, there's a roaster, there's this nonprofit space. It's just very community centric.
Awesome.
The city has done some really fun stuff. So our right outside of the coffee shop, there's all those parking meters. And so we pay for people's parking and put a mug out there, and people can take the change and fill up in their meters. Well, the city found out about that, and they, for Christmas, brought down gift cards for customers so they could just use and throw it in the meter and everything.
Oh, wow.
So there's a cool relationship there. We see the mayor every day, a lot of the councilmen coming in and out. We try to work with them as much as possible. There's a huge project right now called Town Branch, where they're going to be kind of taking a creek throughout the middle of the city and connecting a lot with a bike path.
Wow.
And we're going to do some tests with them. We're going to do pop-up coffee carts and just kind of play around and see what we can do.
So you feel enabled and helped?
Oh, yeah. The city's been so great about, with everyone. Everyone kind of works together, and we try to find ways to better it. So,
okay. Very cool. Very cool. Where can people find you? So what if our audience wants to learn more, so what your address here in Lexington is?
For the shop, it's 105 Eastern Avenue, and just outside of downtown, right across from Thoroughbred Park.
Are you guys on social media, Instagram, Facebook?
Yeah, so Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, just about anything. There's things that I don't really know as much now, and Alan, who's our marketing director, he understands all that stuff.
Yeah.
So I know Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and then our website, acupofcommonwealth.com, that covers a lot of the different aspects of the business. And people want to reach out to me. Email is really simple. It's salvador@acupofcommonwealth.com. So we try to be as transparent and open as possible. So
awesome. Well, thank you so much for welcoming me to Lexington. It's been really cool to learn about what you're doing here, and thank you so much for taking the time.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to Small Business War Stories. If you enjoy the show, share it with a friend, or you can subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, or on our blog at blog.proven.com. If you have an idea for us, we'd love to hear it. Please email us at podcast@proven.com. See you next time. Small Business War Stories. Small businesses are the soul of America. And this is where they tell their stories. I am your host, Pablo Fuentes.